Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? Strap in. Well, I'm the one that needs to strap in because I'm about to react to why do Europeans dislike Americans so damn much. These type of videos are pretty brutal to watch as an American. Sometimes they're pretty eye-opening too, so I think I'm prepared. Let's do. Oh no, this was filmed in Paris. Oh god. How many people? I mean, that's 80 million people right there in France that hate America, isn't it? Or how many people? 70 million? Something like that. The French hate Americans, I swear. Nathaniel Drew, check him out, link down below. Oh boy. Wow, this video has almost 3 million views. I'm a little nervous.
I'm asking questions about how Europeans see Americans.
I think it's a third world country with a lot of money. Very negative.
Damn! Third world country with a lot of money. Even with all our money, we still can't figure out how to make it, take it out of the third world. Okay. What's funny, I mean, the truth to that is that in America, there are aspects of it that are very, you know, like the healthcare system, that feel very ancient.
Very negative.
Yeah, I don't see anything positive about America.
Oh my God, that's brutal. Nothing positive. Wow.
I think they're a bit...
I'm turning off the captions because I can see it's a little bit like of a spoiler. I see she's about to say we're stupid.
stupid. American TikTokers.
American TikTok. Oh, come on. We don't need to talk about American TikTokers.
They earn too much money with what they do. Like in Belgium, you have to work for money and they just make videos
Well, you can get on TikTok too, can't you? Do they not have TikTok in Belgium?
and that's it.
I mean, that's hilarious. There are people making way too much money, more than they should. You know what I mean? Just in life in general, how much money you make and how hard you work is not necessarily directly correlated.
You know, I might
But that was brutal.
be completely wrong about this, but I think it was a little bit cooler to be American when I was a kid.
I feel the exact same way. Even in America, like people used to be more proud.
Hi guys! Hi guys!
I've lived in Europe for several years now, and look, I've romanticized this continent quite a bit. I really like living here. But there's a funny feeling that I cannot shake, and I think it has to do with how Europeans view Americans, or how Europeans view me when they discover that I'm American. And it's not entirely positive. This feeling has not gone
You don't say.
away even though I've been here for a few years now. And it's not hatred, it's more like negative undertones, offhand comments or jokes that are made. And it
You know, in all seriousness, that would be kind of annoying. I'm not even gonna lie. That would be kind of annoying, huh? Moving there. I mean, just think about it moving to America if there were underhanded comments about your country. Like, it's, on one hand, for instance, I can laugh at it and I do find it funny. But if you're having to live like that every day, I could imagine being like,
makes me feel not very cool.
why don't you just tell me how you really feel, dude?
And by the way, I recognize not all Europeans dislike Americans. That is a massive
True.
generalization. But I'm bringing this up
Just most of them.
because it's been enough of a trend for me to confidently talk about this as something that's really happening in the world. I don't think it's just in my head. It just seems like when it comes to Europeans' view of Americans, there's a lot to dislike. I don't necessarily entirely disagree. I have plenty of my own criticisms about
Yeah, I mean, obviously he moved to Europe. So what else do you gotta... If you loved America that much, you wouldn't move to Europe. I don't think. I mean, maybe you would just as like an experience thing.
the United States
Or
and
maybe you could say I love them both equally.
the way of life over there. And I think that all places, all societies merit criticism. That's how we get better. So this applies to everyone. But there's something
Indeed.
deeper going on here that I want to explore. On a personal level, my own identity as an American,
Wow.
but also
I'm loving this video already. I feel like this is a great video.
the identity of Americans on the global stage. We don't live in a bubble, and
You know, we're going in a little bit deeper. It's not so much just an interview on the street of, hey, how stupid do you think Americans are? Very stupid.
Turns out the whole world has opinions about us. Now, I have my own theories about what's going on here, but I thought I'd get to the root of the matter and ask Europeans themselves.
Although that is my favorite part, I'm not
It
gonna
makes
lie.
me a little bit nervous talking to strangers, but I'm just gonna go for it. What are the stereotypes?
That's a good question.
Good question. What should I say? So you're American and you're asking me what the stereotypes are. What can I say that won't be offensive? Stupid, fat, ugly,
Je pense aux
arrogant, loud.
Américains, je pense
When I think of Americans, I think of their food.
à la bouffe et tout.
Dans quel sens? Le fast-food?
Ouais.
Ok.
Les McDo. Ouais.
McDo. Ouais.
I don't think there could be a more opposite cuisine than like the American and the French cuisine. You know what I mean? And I'm not even gonna lie, I love American food. So I'm not hating. Sorry. I love American food. It's just the French cuisine is so much fancier.
Hamburger
And American cuisine is so not fancy.
et tout.
Mais les Français adorent McDo.
Oui. Bah, on y était il y a 2 minutes.
Donc c'est pas forcément négatif ça.
Non, non.
Ok.
Mais c'est l'image.
Actually, I like Americans
Okay.
because they are like very chilled. America is like so expensive for good food.
It is kind of loud how people say Americans are chill, but also super loud. You know, that can be at odds sometimes, being chill, but really loud and obnoxious.
Like
Yeah.
for like fruits and all this fresh stuff, it's like so expensive.
J'ai deux visions un peu.
Ok.
J'ai la version où ils sont trop cool et tout, et la version vraiment le beauf américain.
Do you think the stereotypes about Americans are true?
Kind of. I have a classmate that
I
is
mean, most stereotypes don't just pop out of thin air.
American, and we are talking like about our traditional foods. And the American was like, my typical food is hamburger, ice cream, like the McDonald's one. And we are like, oh, so McDonald's is your typical food? She was like, yeah, kind of.
I mean, it's a little bit unfair, obviously. Do I have to be the one to point out that McDonald's is American fast food? That would be like if I went to someone from Mexico and I was like, so Taco Bell is your basically Mexican food is Taco Bell? Like, no. That's just Taco Bell's Mexican fast food.
Could I just take a couple minutes to ask you a couple questions? It's okay if you don't have time.
I do love McDonald's.
Okay. All good. Have a nice day. The Americans don't have time for me. That's kind of funny. Would you mind if I asked you a couple questions?
Yeah.
Polarized.
Polarized. Yeah. More than the Netherlands.
Europeans do seem. I love how they hold themselves. You know what I mean? I don't know. They seem very confident, but not arrogant. Well, yeah, I'd say that's a general vibe. You know, they're very well dressed. At least these two. You know what I mean? Confident, not having to overcompensate for anything.
Much more.
Feel younger.
I like these guys.
Polarized. Yeah. More than the Netherlands.
Much more.
Feel younger people feel the same way or differently about American?
I think even stronger.
Even stronger.
I think they
Okay.
feel even stronger.
Yeah, the older people, I feel maybe thinking of the World War II and World
Yeah.
War One, in which the Americans did a very good job
Yeah.
by helping because Europe was not doing very well.
Yeah.
Ils connaissent que ce qui se passe dans leur pays, j'ai l'impression.
That's the type of thing that honestly makes me kind of sad. It's like, wow, we used to have that type of reputation, you know, at least. Like, at least, I don't know. Especially around war and our military. It used to be, in some cases, a force for good. Now it's got just a reputation of just being everywhere, way too big, way too powerful, and in all these wars, you know, for oil and stuff.
Enfermés sur eux-mêmes. Enfermés
It's
sur.
a lot cooler to be known as the military that helps fend off, you know, the bad guys.
Ils connaissent que ce qui se passe dans leur pays, j'ai l'impression.
Parce que enfermés sur eux-mêmes. Enfermés sur eux-mêmes. C'est-à-dire que c'est pas contre eux, mais qu'ils s'intéressent pas trop aux autres pays.
They know about their
I am very interested in other countries, so I mean he's right. There's definitely that, but I'm breaking the mold, folks.
own country, but not about like other stuff in the world. They're overrated.
They're
Damn.
overrated.
Overrated by who? So far, I'm hearing everybody hates us. So who's overrating us? Ourselves. They overrate themselves. Damn.
How? Like, they receive too much attention?
Yeah,
Yes.
too much hype.
Too much
on
hype.
the internet.
Are you also German?
On the internet. Bizarre type. I don't know. It's kind of, I guess it's a little bit difficult to be in America, an American, and looking out like, what do you mean the internet? There's a lot of content on the internet made by Americans. And a lot of Americans on the internet. I mean, but most of the internet is not Americans. That's kind of interesting to think about sometimes. Most of the people on the internet are not American. Anyway.
Yes, I am.
And in Germany, you feel like German people have a positive view of Americans? Or
not really.
No,
I think
okay, so more negative.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel that there's been a change at all?
I think he knows so.
In terms of how Americans are viewed, like in the last 10, 15 years?
I think so, yes. Especially due to the Trump and the Tea Party things happening.
Tea Party. I haven't heard that in a long time. That's funny how there's certain little things that go across the borders, you know, transcend. I just wouldn't have thought the Tea Party movement. I mean, at this point, that's pretty antiquated. But even at the time, you know, it's like, oh, people in the Netherlands know about the Tea Party? It was a big talking point back then.
It got more polarized and that made it more negative in my view.
There's more that I'd like to say about why I believe this dynamic is happening, why Europeans see Americans in this way.
Okay.
But before I do, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is BetterHelp. And look, therapy is a really powerful tool when it comes to anything and everything identity related. I absolutely love living abroad. I wouldn't exchange it
Did you know you could click down and double speed it?
for the world.
I'm letting it play because, you know.
But it has come with its
Hey, I'm reacting to the video.
own emotionally challenging situations, and it's been helpful to work with a therapist over the years. Loneliness, my own self-image, my self-worth, those are the kinds of things that I've been working at, developing a deeper understanding of over the years, thanks to therapy. BetterHelp is 100% online and designed to be convenient and flexible to adapt to your schedule and what works for you. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it works for you. They give you access to a very large network of licensed therapists, and so if the therapist that you're working with doesn't work out, it isn't a good fit, you can switch to a new one at no additional charge. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can get 10% off your first month if you sign up at betterhelp.com/NathanielDrew, and I'll leave that link in the description as well. One of the best ways to
Go support
my
his
work.
link.
Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this video. All right, time for me to share some of my own personal theories here. Here's why I think it was maybe a little bit cooler to be American in the past. I was born in the 90s, maybe like some of you. And back in the 90s, it's not like the United States
It's a better time.
or the world for that matter, didn't have its problems. It definitely did. You're not gonna get any of that classic, nostalgic, those were the days kind of thing from me. But one
You will from me. Those were the days, dude. And it's probably just because I was like 5 years old. But those were the days. No problems. I swear. The only problem was what? That colored popsicle I would eat.
thing I think we can all agree on is that back in the 90s, the internet had not yet completely taken over our lives like it has now. And in my view, the internet feels like it's taken whatever problems already existed and made them bigger and louder. That might actually be what the internet is best at, the fast transmission of ideas and information, which in turn amplifies them. And there's another thing that the internet is really good at, which is that it is a canvas for less curated or filtered versions of that information or ideas. There are less gatekeepers, so anyone can say anything. My theory is that as time has gone on, and as the internet has played a bigger and bigger role in our lives, the world has been exposed to a less curated version of the United States. You know, you had movies and TV and pop music.
I think he's probably right. And I think there's also, I mean, he's definitely right. Let me just say that. He's definitely right. But also in a way, what's weird about the internet now is it's all run by these algorithms that nobody knows exactly how they work and everything. And so that all the content everybody sees is very oddly filtered to them through this algorithm that's like a black box for what's basically going to make them outraged or happy or angry or sad. Whereas it used to be back on the early days of the internet, back before they figured out all these weird algorithms, stuff was really just given to you like in chronological order, basically. It's crazy to think about, but that's how the internet used to work. It used to literally just be like, for instance, here on YouTube, when someone you're subscribed to uploaded a video, it would just be in your subscription box on your homepage, And then it would be there until the next person on your subscriptions uploaded. Then it would get bumped over. And the rest of the homepage was just featured videos handpicked by the YouTube staff, like, here's what we liked from today on YouTube. There was no algorithm. It's kind of crazy.
Reaching the entire world, but it wasn't like it is today with social media and even the news reaching so many more people. Nowadays, it feels like you cannot escape the news about the mass shootings that are constantly happening in the US or the insane election cycles. I think in some ways, the internet might have taken away some of our innocence, right? Some of our naivete. As a result, even more curated.
I think it's both. I think it's not. I think that's true, and it's more than that. It also feeds us way too much. It gives you a representation, like even me as an American, if I look at TikTok too much, I'll be like, oh my God, like all the CVS's, for example, are getting burglarized. Like these gangs are just going in and stealing everything in there and leaving. But in my real life, I've never seen anything like that happen. But on TikTok, I see these videos like that. Does that make sense? And they keep feeding it as if that's just everyday life here in America, and it's not.
Versions of culture, like the highly produced TV shows and movies, are reflecting the things that we're seeing. The unintelligent or simple American is a very believable archetype and not a new one. You've got at least one, and often more than one character that perfectly fits that archetype in pretty much all American sitcoms, from Friends to How I Met Your Mother. And there are plenty of shows that play off of this very intentionally. I think of South Park and Family Guy and The Simpsons. And internationally, the contrast is even more stark. And it might just be me, but it does feel like the perception of Americans is deteriorating. I mean, I'm thinking about shows like Emily in Paris or The White Lotus. The White Lotus in particular blew me away because it felt so believable and oftentimes in a very depressing way. Clearly,
I don't know those shows.
Americans are not known for being refined or in touch with reality. This is particularly true of wealthy Americans. And why would
That's true.
Europeans feel this way? We are famously terrible at learning foreign languages. To many, we're seen as living in our own giant bubble.
A lot of people beforehand used to think like the US was like very cool and this really lovely place to go to, but I feel like everyone just thinks it's dangerous and that they don't care about their citizens. There's all these shootings going on, like their healthcare is horrible, their schooling's horrible.
So there's been a change.
I think it's always been like that. I think there's a change now because like social media is like is making it more apparent.
America used to be, like the American dream.
Man, it's so complicated how I feel about that. Because on one hand, she's right. But also I feel like it's a little bit, it's not like, for instance, the schools I went to, they were good schools. I don't know how they compare to your European schools and stuff, but all I can say is they did a good job overall educating me. I mean, there's things I can look back on and be like, oh, they should have taught us more about this or that. But there are garbage schools here in America as well. That's the sad thing. And that does exist. There are really bad schools. And those are in the poorer parts of town. But if you live in a middle class upper or higher, then a good chance you're going to a good school.
Like a lot of used to be a big thing. Like gun crime is getting publicized a lot more. So I think the narrative is changing a little bit.
And even like that, it's like I don't know how to feel. I've never witnessed any gun crime. Period. At all. I've never heard a gunshot outside of a shooting range. Let alone witnessed. But with that said, flip side is, I do know of in a city a couple hours away, there was a shooting last year. So it's absolutely true. And it indeed does. I have paranoia about that. But sometimes I try to convince myself, I'm overreacting. It's not chances are it doesn't happen to me. But it might. You know, that's what sucks.
Je vois l'Amérique comme une grande
Damn, it's really, I'm very torn on all of this.
puissance mondiale et je les vois comme des capitalistes. En fait, si tu as de l'argent, tu
Do you guys see yourselves as capitalists? Because that's an interesting, she says, I see them as capitalists. I see Europe as capitalist. And I guess a lot of Americans see Europe as like socialist. And a lot of Americans think socialist is like a dirty word. Obviously, it's a mixed economy. I understand that. But for the most part, you know, the market, I think you just have well-regulated free markets. Capitalist markets.
grande puissance mondiale et je les vois comme des capitalistes. En fait, si tu as de l'argent, tu vis bien, mais si tu n'as pas d'argent, il n'y a personne pour t'aider. Marche ou crève.
In France.
Capitaliste, en fait, si tu as de l'argent,
If you have money, you live well.
tu vis bien, mais si tu n'as pas d'argent,
If you don't have money, no one's going to help you.
il n'y a personne pour t'aider. Marche ou crève.
You know, there's a lot of truth. That's basically true. Basically true. You can get some help. There are food stamps. But there's really not, you know, as far as housing. I mean, you can potentially find a shelter to stay in, but it's not going to be, the living conditions going to be bad. Very bad. And a lot of people choose to just be homeless on the streets over living in a shelter. There's not much help. And especially when it comes to the healthcare. There's not much help for you if you're poor.
In France, we say the Americans are big and fat, but I have America with the friends, the salary friends.
Donc il y a des côtés positifs et des côtés négatifs.
Ouais, c'est ça exactement. Globalement, les gens pensent ça, mais en même temps, tout le monde va aller à New York et tout le monde va aller aux États-Unis.
Ouais, d'accord, ok.
C'est ça en fait, ouais. Ils ont des préjugés, mais en même temps, c'est quand même un rêve d'y aller.
I guess that's nice to hear, you know. Obviously, there is still plenty of tourism in America.
C'était absolument ulcéré quand Trump était au pouvoir. De voir le comportement de cet homme, ça donne pas envie d'aller forcément dans ces conditions-là. Le fait que les gens soient très armés, j'ai l'impression...
What's a little bit interesting, I guess, as an American and as someone who's lived here, you know, my whole life, Trump being in power, as far as everyday life here, it didn't, like, change that much. What we did abroad, I'm sure, changed a lot. And obviously taxes and stuff changed. But as far as, like, I mean, there's always been a ton of guns in America, for example, way before Trump.
Ces conditions-là, le fait que les gens soient très armés, j'ai l'impression que je me sentirais pas en sécurité.
Most people love Canadians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you clarify you're a Canadian, they're like,
Yeah. You're like, oh, Canada, where are you from in Canada?
For me, it's like a lot about the money, like the times I went to New York and it's like, you know, winners and losers and, you know, you gotta make it and you gotta make loads of money and la 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 and then like if you don't have money you're like basically fucked. I would say extreme.
Extremes.
It's like an extreme, you know, country, like very rich, very poor.
Right.
Eat very much, eat very healthy, like extreme healthy, extreme, like XXXL, McDonald's, whatever.
Where are you from?
She hit the nail on the head.
England.
Perfect. So I'm doing a video on Europeans' view of Americans.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any opinions about that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we're
okay.
from Europe.
No, we're not. We left the EU.
This is.
I'm gonna bask in this just for a moment. I've watched so many videos of these like Americans giving stupid answers, and no offense to this girl, I'm sure she's a lovely girl, but that was the funniest thing I've ever heard. Just because I'm so used to it being the other way around. It's nice to just be like, okay, that was not.
Europe. Do you feel like it's a more
I
positive?
mean, I don't even know where. Apparently, she's from Britain.
Or a negative view of Americans?
I'd say negative.
Oh,
I feel like there's a lot going on there that's just a bit backwards.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we need to move along.
Yeah.
The like all the abortion laws coming in.
So politically.
And, yeah, like all the.
This was from 1 year ago. I have noticed that the abortion thing, that was one of those things that transcended the borders, you know what I mean? That's like an international thing. You guys, a lot of Europeans are aware of the abortion, you know, Roe v. Wade being repealed, which is interesting.
Gun crimes, things like that. Like I imagine like most of the country is absolutely lovely, but there's some of the morals that are just a little bit off for me. So I struggle with that.
I agree, but I do think you all like proper chatty and that, and you really
I love the way she talks.
energetic.
Yeah.
So it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
But I
lovely
also
to
agree
meet
with that as well.
Yeah.
It's lovely to meet Americans.
Yeah.
Love meeting Americans.
Okay, so why am I?
What's interesting is so many Europeans seem to have met Americans. I've almost never met a European. I can think of like one. He was from France. He moved to which is so random. I mean, oh my God. Someone from France moving to our little rinky-dink town and going to my elementary school. We were like, dude, that's so cool. You're from France. But I think that's the only European I've ever met. No, I did meet a Irishman on a plane once. But that's it. He was also really cool. Anyway. But it seems like every European's like, oh yeah, meeting Americans, you know, this or that. Wow, that was really... Wait, what am I doing? I just ended it as if I'm not done.
So
I still gotta listen to his conclusion. That was so
interested in this topic. Well, over the last few years, I have shared my journey moving
I really
abroad.
just thought the video was over. Anyway.
And looking for a home, because that home is not the United States. I just don't feel connected to that country. Not as a home, even though I'm coming to realize that it did shape me in many ways. I'm just trying to find my place, but as I've said before, different people will treat you in different ways based off of how they perceive you. The first time I experienced this was during my high school exchange in France when I was 16 years old. Obama was president, and regardless of your personal political opinions or feelings, he was seen in a generally positive light abroad. So in a weird way, even though I was not responsible for electing him, I wasn't even of age to vote, that scored me some cool points. And then on top of it, 16-year-old French kids living in a small town in the west of France thought it was cool that I rode a yellow bus to school and that I had my own personal locker in the United States. So I was benefiting from all these things that I didn't really control at all. Then I get to Argentina a few years later, and I see what it's like to be on the...
It's interesting to think because, I don't know, I guess it's just because I'm old now, so time flies by, but to me, Obama wasn't even that long ago. That's really sad to say because I realized that was like 12 years ago. Holy shit. But, you know, Europe respected us a lot more back in those days. It wasn't that long ago.
Flip side, where
Obama was such an awesome presidential, you know, figurehead for America.
The general sentiment was more negative. I'm generalizing here, but there's a bit of an anti-American streak in Argentina. And I think this comes down to the image that the United States has of being a bit of a bully. I mean, Che Guevara is a bit of an anti-American, anti-capitalist symbol, right? So that was a very different experience. And now I'm back in Europe, and I've been here for a while, and the perception has changed yet again.
90% of the Dutchmen think Trump is quite strange.
Yeah.
They think the Republic...
What's interesting, I'm sorry to interrupt this guy. I just had a thought, like, the Europeans thought Obama was cool, but they don't really seem to have that perception of Biden, do they? And neither, it doesn't feel that way over here in America either. Like, to be honest, no one was ever, like, particularly proud to have Biden as their president. That's just the truth, and it's because he was not... He just, You know, this wasn't particularly articulate, kind of like me right now. That's just the way that it is.
Americans are also quite strange, and that Americans are very Puritan.
This might just be me, but I do feel like the image of Americans has deteriorated a little bit over the last 10 years. That might come down to the government that's currently in power. It might come down to social media. This is a very complex thing, so I can't point to a single reason, but it's definitely a feeling that's there. Now, on a personal level, before I realized that this was going on, I was kind of unintentionally overcompensating. I felt like I needed to show that I wasn't the out-of-touch American in Europe. And the same thing happened to me in Argentina, where I was speaking with as much slang as I possibly could that I picked up over there, even when it was just way ttoo much, when it was inappropriate. Que zarpado, boludo, está re piola, pibe, mal. Why was I acting like that? Was there a deeper need within me to be accepted by the people that I am surrounded by? To me, it's a little bit cringy to behave that way because it's overcompensating for something, which in this case was the
True.
Identity that people...
You know, and that's kind of sad. Once again, it goes back to, you know, like, you shouldn't have to be embarrassed of where you're from, no matter where you're from.
People were associating with me. Whatever it was, the out-of-touch, stupid American, whatever it might be. But that's actually a me problem, not a problem with the world. I've come to realize that people can think whatever they want about you. It doesn't change who you are. If people see me as yet another dumb American, it doesn't mean that's true. And also, it doesn't mean all Americans are that way. I think we all know this. We all know that individuals don't necessarily follow the stereotypes, but it's also how people operate in a world of 8 billion people. I can't blame people for having formulated an idea about the place that I'm from.
What I'm thinking right now is, you know, he kind of laid out two different potential things, which is, you know, maybe social media contributed to people seeing America in a different light, and maybe it's our government. Our government's definitely got a huge factor in how America is perceived worldwide. But I'm wondering, you know, I wonder what about the flip side of the question, where it's like, has something changed with the Europeans to where they don't see us the same? I don't know. I guess I can't really answer that. I have no idea.
How much culture is exported from that place. A part of me used to try to distance myself as much as possible from anything and everything American. But the truth is that at least some part of me, some piece of me.
You know, overall, America used to have a vibe of being a bit more like freedom, democracy, not corrupt, opportunity. And now it's got just a lot more vibe of divisive, warmongering, fake news, angry. And I think that is basically sums it up.
Has been influenced by my upbringing there. There are a lot of things I don't like, but there are some things that I do. If genuinely being very enthusiastically excited about simple things is the dumb American thing to do, then fine, maybe I'm a dumb American sometimes, because that is something that
me too, dude.
Comes naturally to me. I would rather be myself and accept the consequences than try to be someone that I'm not. And you know what?
I'm very curious to read some comments.
Everyone wants to feel welcome wherever they are, and especially in their home. But the reality is that that's actually a luxury, not a given. So many immigrants in the United States were never made to feel that way, despite the fact that the country benefited tremendously from all the immigration, all the people that risked their lives to go build something over there. Honestly, I don't have it that bad. Who am I kidding? I don't have it bad at all. It could be so much worse, and oftentimes it is. Exploring this topic has really given me quite a bit of empathy for the immigrants that are very poorly received all around the world. So, what do you think about everything I just shared here? What is your perception of Americans or of Europeans towards Americans? I'll
read some comments. I'm surprised nobody mentioned how different urban planning and design is so much in Europe and the US. Walkable cities versus car-centric. Yes. And how that affects the population physically and psychologically. Okay. I feel like that's a whole different topic, but I guess how it affects the population psychologically. You'd have to elaborate a little bit more. I'm surprised that's got the most thumbs up as far as why that makes, you know, Europeans not like America. I'm trying to connect the dots. I see a little bit. These are too long. I'm sorry. I don't understand the way people in my country, Netherlands, talk about the U.S. There's so much generalization. Well, that's just how people are. Hey, look at me generalizing. And actually, hey, you're generalizing about the people in your country. No, I'm just kidding. It's really hard to talk about groups of people without generalizing, huh? Or else you could pretty much just say nothing. Anyway, but it is true that people can overgeneralize. When asked if they have ever visited the country, let alone even met anyone from there, the most likely answer is no. I've met quite a few Americans from all over the country, and they have nothing but great, and I have nothing but great experiences. That was a really nice comment. LMAO, the one British girl, derp, we live in the EU, we are not European. Oh my God, that was classic, guys. I really had to bask in that for a minute. And her friend saying we're still in Europe. That made me spit my drink. What people from other countries don't seem to understand is the U.S. is so massive that your experience visiting the country is going to be based off what state you go to. That's for sure. I mean, oh my God, that's so true. And that's also why Americans don't travel so much. It's because our country is very, very large. So you can get all sorts of experiences going to different states in America. Whether you go to West Virginia, is it going to be wildly different than California? It's going to be a lot different than Texas and much different than New York. And all the states in between, there's so many more, you know, or even between New York and going to Maine. Maine is much different. Florida is its own thing. Anyway. That was pretty legendary. Go check out Nathaniel Drew. Thank you for watching. Wow. I will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.